Welcome, Drink with James, episode 96. It is, I think, officially the first day of spring here in New York City, so I've switched from whiskey to margarita for the day. It's 78 degrees or something outside. I was walking around today and everyone just has this shit-eating grin on their face and their pallid white bodies. And I haven't seen the sun in months. It's been a tough winter here, and we're not totally out of it, but for the next 2 days, we have summer, and New Yorkers, just like, if you don't live in New York, I apologize for the content. It's gonna be like Coachella, but for the weather. Like, everyone is just gonna be posting about it and being like, oh my God, it's amazing. But it is amazing. And New York, when it first gets warm for the first few weeks, is so much fun because everybody is so happy. Like, you just cannot piss somebody off. Like, usually New Yorkers, you bump into them, they're like, hey, watch where you're going, you know? They're just like, nobody gives a shit. They are happy. They're like, oh, hello neighbor. Thank you for bumping into me. Aren't you enjoying this lovely day? They turn nasty pretty soon after that because then it gets to be like 96 degrees and humid and you're standing in the subway and you start to feel the drip of sweat falling down your back, and then there's like someone's like breathing their hot breath on you. So they get annoyed again very quickly, but there's a 2-week gap where everyone is very happy and I am happy. Look, it's been an emotional roller coaster for me today. I woke up, my camera was not in my apartment. I left it in a cab last night. I thought, oh, I lost my 5D Mark IV and my L series lens. I'm 5K in the hole. I'm such a fucking moron. I'm 33 years old, about to be 34. How am I losing my camera? But I found a cabbie. I called him. He told me he left it at the police station. I went to the police station. The cop looked at me. He's like, did you get arrested last night? I was like, no. He's like, oh yeah, I thought like you looked too well dressed to get arrested, which was a weird comment. I got the camera back, so I'm feeling good again. I'm drinking a margarita. I let most of the office, if you see it's pretty empty, I let people go early, so I am in a good mood. We're gonna answer these questions and I'm gonna continue drinking. Question number 1 is, do long captions affect post-performance? I've seen influencers posting longer captions. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, hold please. As an influencer, a big part of your job is storytelling, right? This is a fact that I think is lost on some of my colleagues in the influencer space because I go through Instagram and I'm not seeing a lot of storytelling craft happening. Now, there are some people who are great visual storytellers who don't have to use long captions or anything like that, but I do think that a long caption can be really helpful. I wrote a big email to brands this week about The Rock, who I talked about last week, who I obviously love. He writes a lot of very, very long captions. I don't read every one of them, but they generally do help to, because he's not a great photographer, or he's not a photographer at all, and a lot of the stuff, he's just like iPhone photos of him. He's using the captions to kind of flesh out what's happening, tell people about his day, et cetera, et cetera. When I was doing the Michelle Take Aim Challenge, I did a lot of longer captions because I was taking a photo of myself every day and I didn't have anything to say. Like, the photo had nothing to do with, you know, like, the photo wasn't telling a story, it was just a photo of me. So then I had to be like, what am I doing today? What am I struggling with? What am I happy about? What am I excited about? What am I sad about? What am I thinking about? What am I working on? I use the captions a lot in that way. I do think some influencers do a good job of it. In the fashion and beauty space, I see less of it. Chris Burkard, someone we also talk about a good amount, who's more of a travel and adventure photographer, but he sometimes writes really long captions that are nice. I think it definitely helps. I actually think it improves performance. I don't have stats on that, but I do think that if you write longer captions, you can train people to start reading those captions, which will get them to stop on your post more often to see what you have to say, not just what you have to show. And I think that that can be really valuable, being able to give people something, you know, if they don't like the photo, they might still like the caption. I also think that with writing you can connect with people a bit more because you can let them into your life a little bit more. You can let them know what you're talking about. You're much more likely to get a like, I think, if you are revealing something about yourself, and it is hard to reveal something about yourself in a photo. So I think captions can be really helpful for that. So if you're not good at speaking to camera, I'm not good at like on Insta stories, like I never like speak to camera. I find it very awkward. I replace that by letting people into what I'm doing on captions. I'd be interested in y'all, if you know someone who's a great writer, who's writing long captions in the influencer space, throw it in the comments because I'm actually interested in it. I'm interested in diving more into influencers on Instagram that are using captions in an interesting way. It's something that's been on my mind recently. So if you know somebody, throw it in the comments for us. Blogs are increasingly going away, and I do think that like writing a long caption, if you can write and you're not writing long captions, I think you're doing yourself a huge disservice. If you can't write, writing is a craft just like photography. Yes, there are people that are born great writers. I read this book by Haruki Murakami called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, which is a book about writing wrapped up in a book about running. But his thing was like, he says that like, I am not a very talented writer in the way that some of my contemporaries are, and so I have to work so much harder at it than other people. I have to be so disciplined. And his point with the book, which you should read, it's great, was that becoming a runner helped him become a writer because it taught him discipline. And I do think that, like photography, writing is a craft that you can get better at and you can learn how to do. I am a decent writer, but most of that is because I am a voracious reader. I probably read or listen to 50 books a year. And I've done a lot, like over the last, I've listened to 50 books a year, and over the last 20 years, I've consistently been writing, either on a blog or, obviously high school, I wrote, high school, college, you write papers, but I was also doing newspaper stuff. And then writing has always been a part of my job in marketing. It's definitely something that you should push yourself. If you feel like I'm not a good writer, I think that you should push yourself once a week to try and write a long caption. Try and tell a story. There's only so far that a photo can go. And I was talking to an influencer recently, someone who I think has great style and has a really great viewpoint. And I was like, I've known you for over a year. I've followed you for longer than that. If I just followed your Instagram, I wouldn't know a thing about you. And if somebody doesn't know something about you, then why follow you? Why are YouTubers' Instagram feeds so much more engaged than a normal fashion influencer? Because this back and forth, speaking to camera, creates a connection. Those followers of YouTubers feel connected to the person. They feel like they know them. And so they are more likely to engage. Okay, well, you're not a YouTuber, you're an influencer. How do you get people to know you? What, by posting your outfit of the day? Like, it's not gonna cut it, right? So the captions can help. You can still do the outfit of the day and then tell a story underneath. Tell people about yourselves. Be vulnerable. Say what you're worried about. Say what you're excited about. All those things. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think everyone should try it. Question 2 is, I'm struggling to find good people to collaborate with. How do I find people to collaborate with? Collaborating with another influencer, blogger, YouTuber, whatever it is a great way to grow. We had an overlap tool that allowed you to see, how many of your followers followed somebody else. And I was always surprised how little overlap there was in the space. And so working with another influencer can be a great way to kind of cross-pollinate that. I think we've talked about the menswear guys. They sometimes get 10 or 15 of them together and do a big shoot together, and they all post it. I think that does really well for them to get more followers and more exposure. How do you find these people? I would suggest somebody at or below your following level. I know the temptation is that like you want to work with someone big. You got 20,000 followers, you want to collab with someone with 40,000 followers. That totally makes sense. Why would they want to collab with you? They probably don't want to. But if you have 1,500 followers and someone else has 700, that's still 700 chances to get those people to follow you. And we're looking at marginal gains here, right? Like we're trying to gain 100, 200, 1,000 followers a month. And so if you can move a bunch of those people over, then I think that like you should optimize for working with more people rather than emailing a bunch of people who are 2 or 3 times as big as you and being like, hey, want to collab? And they're like, no, I don't. So look for someone at your level or sometimes below. Where to find them? I mean, that's I think up to you to push yourself to continue to follow people and continue to try and find interesting people. And anytime you do a collaboration, I think thinking about your audience and saying, what would they want to see? What can this other person bring to my feed that I don't have? Are they a great photographer? Are they a great artist? Do they have a very similar style or a very dissimilar style to me? How can we play on that? Am I someone that usually does iPhone photography and they have a very editorial feed? And are we going to kind of like switch vibes and like we'll do an iPhone thing on her feed and we'll do a more editorial thing on my feed? What can we do to kind of push what you're doing forward? Because if it's just I'm taking a photo with another influencer, we're both posting it and hoping to get followers, I don't think that's going to happen. And again, we just talked about captions, and I think here with the collaboration, the caption is key. Why should your audience follow this person? Why should this person's audience follow you? There needs to be a story there. There needs to be something, because tagging someone in a photo 5 years ago used to work. You tag someone in the photo and you could get a huge amount of followers for that because people were new to Instagram. They were looking to build their feeds. It's Friday, give me a break. That's not the case anymore. That doesn't work. I have huge influencers all the time tag me. It doesn't do anything. Literally it does nothing anymore. They need to say, this is this person, this is why you should follow them. They need to make a concerted effort, a concerted push to get their followers to follow you, and you need to do the same thing. So you need to find somebody with a story that's interesting and try and do that. And let me just step back, because now I'm having another drink, and say that if you want to collab with someone, do it from a place of, if you have a following, even if it's 5,000 followers, and you find someone you think is amazing who has 500, using your following to try and get them more followers, like it's just going to pay dividends for you. You should be thinking of collabs to think, how can I help other people? And that will come back to you. Going out and saying, I'm going to use collabs as a growth hack and I'm going to try and hack my way into growth, I don't know if that will work as well as you saying, just like switch your perspective and say, how can I help somebody else? Because do that, and I imagine the post that they post about you is going to be a lot kinder and a lot more authentic. And that's what people are looking for now. They're looking for authenticity, and so I think it's incredible when you for the people who are watching who have quite a big following, because I do think that we've been getting more and more people who have a big following who are watching the show. Use that sometimes to pick people up. I mean, you remember when you were at 5,000 followers. If you find someone who's great, reach out to them and be like, hey, let's do something together. Let's try and work together. Because I think one of the coolest things about having a platform is being able to share it with people who deserve a platform. And if you're not doing that and you're not putting something back into the world and you're just taking, then it's not going to be very interesting for your audience. Again, I'm just going to go back to The Rock real quick, because I wrote this long email to brands and I said one of the things that I love about him is gratitude. And every time he doesn't do sponsored posts per se, but he uses his feed in large part to hype up the projects that he's working on. And if he does 5 posts about a project, one of them is always going to be about the people who made it happen. It's always going to be about the cameramen or the photographers or the producers or the director or the writer or his co-stars. Like he is always full of gratitude, and I think that is missing. And as much as you can kind of spread the love and put good energy and good vibes out there, I think that comes back to you. And I think that I think that like positive thinking like is like that what is that, like positive thinking secret bullshit? I don't believe any of that stuff. I think it's dumb. So this is coming from a place of like a cynical New Yorker being like, I do think that if you go out and try and pick other people up, that stuff will come back to you. Oh, question 3. Question 3 is about cold emails. And it was about when, is it rude, how do I follow up, etc. I'm gonna kind of step back from the actual question and use it as a teeing off point. I have a lot of friends that work in digital that are, heads of PR or marketing for brands, and they forward me influencer emails every once in a while with like the eye roll emoji. It just happened to me like 2 days ago, actually. And I am always shocked at how bad the emails are that people are writing when they're reaching out cold to brands. A lot of them are, hey, my name is blank, I'd love to collab. That's it. Or, hi, I'm going to Coachella, can you give me this? And we've talked about this at length, and I don't want to go into the whole process. But in that first email, if this person doesn't know you, it's okay to ask for something. I generally would suggest that you try and build a relationship before you go and ask for something. But if you want something, it's definitely okay to ask for it. I do it all the time, not like personal, but like for four. But you have to provide some context. So saying, hey, my name is this. Hey, first of all, yeah, my name is this. I have I'm an influencer. I have a fashion and lifestyle. Instagram. It reaches 30,000 people a month, period. Next, I love your brand so much. I've always wanted to work. I've always respected what you guys do. I always wanted to work with you. Here's a couple times I've posted about you already. Next, I'm heading off to Coachella this weekend, and I know it's a long shot because there's not a lot of time left, but I thought it would be a really cool opportunity to potentially work together. What I'm looking for is XYZ, but I'm happy to get on the phone, blah, blah, blah. If you're gonna send an email like that, you have to like introduce who you are and tell them why you're relevant to what they do. Show them that you know and care about their brand. Think about it as an influencer, all the emails you get from brands that say, hey, influencer, and they pitch you some shitty product that you don't want, that has absolutely no relevance to your blog, and you just think, why are you reaching out to me? This is like offensive and annoying. And I see influencers post to Twitter all the time, like when brands email and it says like, hey, influencer, and they forgot to like take that out and put their name in there. And that is annoying, and it is kind of offensive, and it is lazy. But influencers are doing the same thing to brands, and they're just like, so first you have to like introduce yourself in some way that lets the brand person know why they should be reading the rest of this email, because there's a good chance they won't even get to the end. So why should they actually take the minute or two to read this email? So validate yourself. Show them you know their brand. Show them you care about what they do. You don't have to have posted about that brand before, but show them you care. Hey, I saw your recent campaign. I loved it. Hey, I saw this. I saw your recent ad in Vogue, and it reminded me to reach out. Show them that you're watching and that you care. And then explain the opportunity well. Explain the opportunity. You don't have to go into extreme depth, because this is going to be a back and forth. But frame it in a way that they can kind of understand what the ask is and kind of understand how to respond. If I'm reaching out cold, I usually do like hey, totally understand if this isn't possible, but just wanted to ask, because saying no to someone sucks. Like it's not a nice thing to do. Nobody likes to do it. And again, if you think about this as a marathon and not a sprint, and you want to work with that brand for years, it's okay if they can't work with you this first time, you know? But your behavior in this first email and this first exchange could prohibit you from ever working with them. And so in that first email, you want to make sure that you try and open a door that maybe you can walk through right away, but maybe you walk through in 6 months or a year. But the worst thing that that first email can do is close the door. And the way to do that is by being like, me, give me, I'm giving you no information and this is what I want, 2-sentence email. I think the email should probably be like 2 to 3 paragraphs. Short paragraphs, but 2 to 3 paragraphs. If your email is a sentence or two and you're reaching out to a brand for the first time, you're fucking up. So step back, think about it as if a brand was reaching out to you and what you would react to. A brand that you have never heard of in your entire life, because you may think you're hot shit, but there's almost no chance the brand that you're reaching out to has heard about you, because if they've heard about you, you probably aren't reaching out cold. So they have no idea who you are. So think about that. A brand you've never heard of before reaches out to you cold. What do you want that email to look like? Structure that the same way for yourself when you're reaching out.
And just real quick, DMs or no DMs?
Email. Yeah, no DMs. No DMs. The only DM I would write is if you were trying to get an email address and you couldn't. But I would dig first. The email addresses are out there. You can find them. But if you can't find them, you can DM and ask for an email address. But don't. You know, I get a lot of DMs and I appreciate them, and I actually encourage y'all to DM me. But it's hard to stay on top of it because it's not like an inbox, especially for your like hidden private DM, the ones that like you're not following or you haven't talked to before. You don't see those for a while. It's just, you can't search that inbox well. So if you say, oh, what was that influencer that asked me about Coachella? Like I just tried to do a search in my Instagram inbox for Drink with James, but like you can't search messages, which is really fucking annoying, honestly. So do not DM. It's very annoying. And the brand people I've talked to at least have said that they do not like when influencers DM them. So, listen, it's 80 degrees out. I've been freezing my ass off for 4 months, so I'm gonna leave. Cheers.